Hello everyone, I am Arpita Pujari. Today I am introducing theory of computation. In that, ambiguity in grammar. First, given grammar is uh, E tends to E plus, uh, where E into E, where E minus E ID. Understanding the grammar. This is a grammar for arithmetic expressions involving operators. Operators are plus, into, minus, parenthesis, identifiers, ID. Currently, the grammar does not specify precedence or associative. This is a classic source of ambiguity. Step 2, check for ambiguity. A grammar is ambiguous if there exists at least one string that has more than one precise derivation. Test strings, test strings, uh, test string is given. We will try two different derivations. Step 3, first derivation interpreter into before plus. We interpret as id plus id into id plus id into id plus id into id. Step 3a. Start from e tends to e plus e. Uh, e tends to e plus ee. Right arrow e plus ee tends to e plus e. Step 3b. Left e tends to id. Right e tends to e into e. E plus E tends to ID plus E into E tends to ID plus ID into ID, E plus E, right arrow ID plus E into E, right arrow ID plus ID into ID. E plus E tends to ID plus E into E tends to ID plus ID into ID. Step 4, second derivation, interpreter plus before star. We interpret as we interpret the statement, I mean, given grammar. First, we will use plus and before star, I will use a plus interpreter. Start from E tends to E into E. E tends to E into EE, right arrow, E into EE, E into E. Um, Step 4b, left E tends to E plus E, right E tends to ID, E into E tends to E plus E, star ID tends to ID plus ID, star ID E into E, right arrow E plus E into ID, right arrow ID plus ID into ID E into IE tends to E plus E into ID tends to ID plus ID into ID. Step 5 conclusion. The grammar is ambiguous because the string ID plus ID into ID plus ID into ID plus ID into ID has more than one precise.
Thank you.